Test light is a super cool tool that really everybody that works on cars should have one, whether you're a pro or not. Really just a fast, easy way to figure out where you have power, electrical power on a vehicle. You're looking for that voltage and current that will allow you to install a stereo or, I don't know, a nitrous kit or whatever it is you're installing, or figure out what's wrong with the car. Test light's super handy, super fast, very easy to use. First thing I always want to do with my test light here is I want to find a good place that I can ground the light at. So in this case, I could use this bolt right here because it goes into this plate, and this plate is bolted to the chassis, so I've got really good ground through the chassis, the body chassis ground on this vehicle. If I go right there, I could go over here, and I don't think you guys could see it so well, but there's actually a ground back here that I could go to. I could just go straight to the battery, and that's oftentimes my best ground. So what I do is I ground it, then I check for power with the probe. So just like that. So now I'm touching the positive battery cable and the light comes on. Grounded to negative, touching positive, light comes on. Notice if I go negative to negative, the light doesn't come on. That's because there's no difference in charge from positive to negative. There's only negative. I could go the opposite direction and I could go to positive to ground like that, and that's the method that I might use to look and see if I have a good ground. So I'm on the positive clip and I go over here to that ground I showed you previously, and there it is. I've got a good ground there. Okay, now I'm going to go back here to the negative, check here, looks pretty good, clip to here, check here, looks pretty good. But if I clip to something that's not truly grounded, then I'm going to have a light that doesn't work. So right there, I went to what looks like maybe it might be a decent ground, and it's not. Light doesn't work, okay? I could come over and do that in any number of areas. So, big deal, I just checked the battery. But what if my hydroelectric power steering pump here wasn't working? If I wasn't 100% sure where my problem is, I could see in this one, it's very visual, I've got a big fuse in there. So I'm still clipped to ground. I touch, I've got power into the fuse from the positive cable. I've got, looks like, power through the fuse. So that all looks good, and the cable comes around and it comes to here. So if I unplug this plug, now I see that this cable is coming around and going into this terminal. So I tuck that right there, and I've got power there. It looks pretty good. This side here, if I follow that around, okay, this cable right here is going around and it's going back to that big ground. So let's check that ground and make sure it's good. So clip from ground to positive, and yep, I've got a good ground. So I can use my test light to check for both power and grounds, and that's actually kind of exciting if you're somebody that makes a living working on cars. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're checking for power in certain places, if the key has to be on, then the key has to be on. You need to make sure that you turn it on. So let's say that I wanted to look for voltage at a fuel injector. We'll turn that key on. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to know if I had voltage at number 2 fuel injector. So I'm going to clip to a good ground. I've got a good ground here at my strut. I've also got a good ground down here at this battery cable that is grounding the block to the body. This is a good ground. All of these are good grounds. Engine grounds get a little trickier and you have to be a little more careful about that. But I'm going to try to ground right here to this bolt. And then let's say my number 2 fuel injector, I want to check for voltage. I unplug the injector and I start probing to see what I got. So let's see. Alrighty. I think I got that set where you could see the light. Okay, no voltage there. Voltage there. But I'm only going to have voltage there when the key is on. So when you're using the test light, you may need to make sure that you have voltage in the circuit. If you try to use a test light and the circuit is shut off, it makes sense that the light's not going to work, but you'd be surprised at how many times people will make that very simple mistake. So using a test light, super easy, pretty fast. It's not as precise as a meter, but when we're looking to make quick checks, it's a super useful tool, and they're cheap. You could pick one of these up for really honestly less than $6.